Welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. When you're ready to transform your sales for today's transforming market, we've got you covered with your host, the queen of cold calling and founder of Salesology, award-winning author, speaker, sales trainer, and coach, Wendy Weiss.
Hi, welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. And I am your host, Wendy Weiss. I am the founder of Salesology and the Salesology Prospecting Method. And I'm also known as the queen of cold calling. Today, we have a very special guest. We are talking to Lisa Magnuson, who is the founder and CEO of Top Line Sales. And Lisa works with sales VPs and their senior salespeople to develop and close their largest opportunities. She calls them 5X deals, and she guides opportunity teams through the long, complex, and messy journey to ultimately ring the bell with big wins. So welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Well, I am so happy that you are here as well. So let us begin at the beginning.
Okay.
What is the Lisa Magnuson story? How did you become the founder and CEO of Top Line Sales?
Well, if I go way back, since my whole focus of my business is on those big, complex B2B messy deals, I could go back to my Xerox selling days when I was a account manager for Clorox, the Clorox Corporation in Oakland, California. And at that time, the national account manager introduced me to the contact. And so I started having meetings. And during my first meeting, she said, well, okay, we'd like to place an order for 25 copiers. And I almost fell off my chair. Like my monthly budget was 3. And so right back then, all those years ago, I kind of got that big deals were game changers. And ever since that time, it's been a passion and a focus of mine.
Okay. So what exactly, you call your company Top Line Sales. Can you define top line for us? What exactly are we talking about?
Yeah, well, top line sales, of course, are top line revenue, top of the spreadsheet versus bottom line or net. But when I say top line sales, what I mean are those biggest opportunities that senior salespeople, really can be really any salesperson, has. And over the years, I've sort of coined those as 5X deals. And what I mean by that is about 5 times your average deal size. Because if you have an opportunity that's about 5 times your average deal size, what that means is you have to do different things. You have to do something different. And you have to do different things over a long period of time. And, the reward for that, if you stick with it and you do all the stuff, is, a giant 5X contract, which is a game changer, just like my Clorox order way back when.
Okay, so that kind of leads me into my next question, because I'm wondering, what is the difference between closing smaller deals and closing a 5X deal?
Lots of differences, and that's such a good question, Wendy. And the answer could be incredibly long, but I'll give you the short version. When you have a large opportunity, a large complex opportunity, generally there's more people on both sides of the equation. So you've got more people on the selling team, and what that could look like is the account executive and their sales manager, and also the VP of sales, and maybe an account manager if it's an existing client, and also somebody from professional services, like an analyst or somebody like that, and maybe even somebody from marketing, and on and on and on. And on the buyer's side, Gartner statistics have consistently talked about the growth of the complex buying team. So And even in the last couple of years, that team has grown with stakeholders from unlikely places, like stakeholders from compliance or stakeholders from security or legal, or depends, of course, on your product or service, but that buying team. So you've got these people on both sides that are gonna go through this journey together. And whenever you have that many people, it's complex and can get messy. And sometimes you go backwards to go forwards. And it generally takes time. Average 6 months to 18 months or longer. And so it's hard. It's hard for both sides. And it's hard for the selling side to keep that kind of focus and momentum up. And so that's when I come in and help them with a little structure, little focus and momentum, strategy to go down that path to ultimately win.
So it sounds like you're primarily talking about larger companies that are selling whatever it is they're selling. Is this something that, let's say, a small business, a medium-sized business, they could have 5X deals too?
Yeah, you know what? That's another great question, because it when you talk about it, it does seem like it's, a larger business, maybe selling to a larger business. But that happens. And in those cases, in some cases, those companies have whole different organizations that just get involved. It could be their national account organization or their global account organization. But also small, like I've got a client that is a team of 3. And they go after very large opportunities, and they have to go through exactly the same process. So, and certainly mid-sized companies, that they may not be engaging in this every day, but they've got their target list of those opportunities that they think could be big, and they have to go through all the same steps. And so, but whether you're a small company, mid-sized company, or a Fortune 500 company, it's, when you win, it's a game changer for the organization. That win becomes your banner account or accounts. They become your best references, maybe referrals as well. And it's the stories that everybody tells in the sales organization. So, like, as an example, if you were in the, if you landed an account like Nike, they're in our backyard here in the Pacific Northwest, and with a really big deal, everybody in the sales organization would talk about it with their prospects and clients. So that's why this kind of work is worth it.
Okay. So I'm wondering, what is the process? One of the things that I see a lot, Lisa, is sales professionals that kind of treat everything the same way. So they've got we focus on the front end of the funnel, we focus on prospecting. So they've got small opportunities, they've got medium opportunities, they've got large opportunities. They treat everything the same way, which doesn't really work. Doesn't work for prospecting, probably doesn't work to close the deal either. So what should someone be thinking about if they are going to focus on those 5X deals?
So we've talked a lot about how complex they are, lots of people, time, all that stuff, messy. But you know what? It's not that hard to get started. It can be really simple to get started. So you've talked about your clients that have prospects. Well, when that prospect is significantly bigger, I use 5X, that's just a gauge. It's not an absolute. When they have a prospect that's significantly bigger, to get started, all they need to do is say to themselves, who are the people that can help assess whether this prospect is worth it, that will help develop them over time and can help close this opportunity? Who are those people in our company? Or maybe it could be even like a partner that you trusted, a trusted partner. It doesn't have to be employees. And then set up an account strategy with that group. And then talk about the opportunity. Maybe you think about evaluating the opportunity. I have formalized tools over the years like scoring big opportunities, but it doesn't have to be that you don't have to have those tools. You could just talk about, is this worth it? And are we committed to pursue this over time? And then schedule a next strategy session. I call them war room session. Schedule the next and the next and connect those dots all the way through. And if you do that, you're going to, which is simple. It's just a matter of a series of strategy meetings and then doing what comes out of those meetings, doing what you say you're going to do, everybody on the team over time. And if you do that, you can absolutely get to the end zone. And one of the things I like to tell when I'm involved with those account teams or those opportunity teams is the team gets it right. They always get it right. If you have a committed team and you bring up an issue like, how do we secure an executive sponsor for this opportunity? Not the person that we normally call on, but somebody a little higher than that. The team can talk it through. They can talk through who that person might be. They can talk through the timing. When would be the best time to try to get a meeting with them? How would we get a meeting with them? And then if we get a meeting with them or when, what would that meeting look like? So if that team talks through all that stuff, they discuss, they debate, they decide, they'll get it right. And by getting it right, you'll eventually win.
So is all of this happening before any outreach to the prospect company, that you have the strategy meetings and kind of get everything set up and you all your ducks in a row, so to speak, and this all happens before?
Not necessarily concurrent. So, usually to identify an opportunity, usually you've had a meeting or meetings with that prospect to assess that they're larger and, one of those big opportunities. And right at that point, if you're whatever role you are, the account manager, the account executive, whoever, then you think you have that thought process of who could really add value to this, and you pull that group together. So that's kind of the start of your internal strategy work, which is concurrently working with your external outreach. So the internal strategy team is making sure, like what I tell teams is, every time you meet internally, you are improving and increasing your chances of winning. But between all those meetings, you're doing stuff. You're having meetings with stakeholders, you're having meetings with executive sponsors, you're maybe engaging in an assessment or a study or an analysis, you're helping them prep for maybe RFP, requests for proposal, and you're having input into that before it goes out. And then maybe you're engaged in that RFP. I was involved with one deal that had an RFQ, an RFI, and an RFP, all part of the same sales cycle. It was like a 2-year sales cycle. And at the end of the day, we won because we did exactly what I'm talking about. The account team stayed on it, and they were engaged with the opportunity, with the prospect, and also thinking strategically internally. So those two things happen. Both of them are happening over time, and they're both concurrent. Does that answer your question?
Well, yes and no, because as I'm listening to you, I'm wondering, shouldn't the account team know which are the potential 5Xs before they reach out? I mean, you don't always know. Sometimes you walk in thinking you're going to get 3 and they say they need 25. But a lot of the time you can tell before any kind of interaction with the prospect that this is probably a larger, if it happens, it's probably a larger opportunity.
It's okay. Like, when, especially this time of year, towards the end of the year, sales VPs are saying, okay, what are your top 5 big opportunities for next year, or your top 10 or whatever? And in some cases, salespeople have called on those. In some cases, they haven't, which I think is your point. Either way, if you think you have something, get that team together and start the strategy. The first part of the strategy discussion is going to be, how do we qualify them? And qualifying a big opportunity is not just a matter of a couple questions. There's early qualifying, there's kind of core qualifying, and there's advanced qualifying. So that doesn't all happen in one meeting. I mean, if you think of these large opportunities, let's say it's a short version. Let's say it's 6 months. Well, during that 6 months, as an account team, you may have 8 to 12 war room sessions internally. And you also might have 8 to 12 meetings with your prospect or your client. Really the same process, whether it's a brand new prospect or an existing client that you're trying to do more with. And so that's why I say it's concurrent. The start is really unimportant in have you engage with them or not. That's a detail. It's what's important is get started. And if it doesn't qualify, if it's not worth the team's time, make that decision quick. Because, I'm describing a lot of activity and a lot of meetings, and you don't want to spend that kind of time unless you have a high likelihood of winning.
So what are these different levels of qualification, and how is that different from a smaller opportunity?
A smaller opportunity, you might have qualifications that are unique to your company. Do they have a need for the type of services or products your company has? Are they committed? Do they have a problem they're committed to solve? What is their buying process? Will you be able to talk to the person or people that make the decision? So, those are kind of typical qualifying things that happen during the qualify stage. But with a larger opportunity, it's the same things, but they happen over time, early kind of core and advanced, because you may have to qualify. Let's say the buying team has 12 people on it, a couple decision makers, stakeholders, end users, subject matter experts. So, in one call, you're not going to be able to understand all of their criteria. Is the whole team committed to solve the problem? They may not even know early on who the decision makers are. Is the buying team going to ratify a decision, or are they going to make the decision? It's all that stuff. They're figuring it out too. There's a really good Gartner article that came out a few years ago that talked about, this is hard work for the buying team too, because the numbers keep growing, the complexity keeps going, and they view the risk associated with making a bad decision. That risk keeps increasing. So, part of advanced qualifying is uncovering what they perceive as the risks to be if you're asking them to make a change. So that, you don't just start, when you don't know somebody, you don't ask that kind of question. You have to get to know them a little bit before you can ask that kind of question. One, it's a trust issue, but also to even understand their answer. So that's what I mean by that. That's honestly why these take longer.
Absolutely. And I love what you just said about understanding the risk as they perceive it, because certainly the status quo is probably the biggest impediment to any prospect making a change.
That you're so right. And that is, we never saw that more true than we did. And I know that you saw this too during the pandemic. I mean, all of a sudden, everybody stayed with the status quo. And they did that because they had no tolerance for risk. And they also had no bandwidth. It's one of the things that has changed in the last couple of years is, bandwidth for everybody. Our bandwidth, our prospects' bandwidth, their team's bandwidth. it's hard for them to also be getting all the meetings on the calendar just for their internal team. And it's hard for a selling team, account team, prospect team, opportunity team, whatever you want to call them, to get their meetings on the calendar, so it's like, that's why, you have to be prepared to make it simple for them. And that preparation takes time. So what we control, we being the selling team, the account team, the opportunity team, we control our side of it. So we can decide that this is worth it and spend the time, require the strategy work time to make it simple for them.
Oh, I love what you're saying about making it simple, because confused people do not buy.
They don't do anything.
Confused, stressed out, overwhelmed people don't do anything.
No, what they do is stall and stop.
Exactly. So, yeah. So this is great stuff, Lisa. I want to ask you a couple of more things. We've been talking about the account team, the opportunity team. I'm wondering what the managers should be doing during all of this. And also, I'd love to hear some success stories from you. Before we do that, we're going to pause for a word from our sponsor. And our sponsor today is Salesology 3X Appointments. You know how frustrating and stressful it is when you leave every sales meeting wondering if your sales team knows how to sell, because they're not selling and all you ever hear from them are excuses. They blame your marketing, they say you need to do social media, and they say you need a new website. You know something's wrong, but you don't quite know what it is, and you're even starting to wonder if it's you. You don't have a lot of options. You could fire them all and just start over. That would be expensive. And you're really sick of waking up in the middle of the night wondering how to fix this. Well, imagine instead that you have an easy-to-use, replicable system that ensures that your team can easily schedule qualified appointments. And imagine that your team is excited and motivated. No more excuses, and you feel good. Salesology 3X Appointments can make that happen. If you're a business owner or a sales manager with an underperforming sales team, let's talk. Click on the link to my calendar in the show notes, schedule a time, and I look forward to meeting you. And we are back with my special guest, Lisa Magnuson, who is the founder and CEO of Top Line Sales. And we are talking about those 5X deals, the largest opportunities. So, Lisa, we have been talking about the sales team, the account team, the opportunity team. Where are the managers in all of this? What are they doing?
Well, that's a great question. Salespeople ask that question all the time, right? Okay, but before I answer that question, I just want to say to your listeners, call Salesology. Holy cow. If you want to uncover bigger deals, call them. They're going to help you. 3X leads to 5X. That's what I'm saying about Salesology.
Thank you, Lisa.
The sales managers. So the managers, the sales VPs, even the CRO, the chief revenue officers, what are they doing? My whole latest book is about what they're doing, the Top Sales Leader Playbook. They are intimately involved. And they not only, so sometimes they start the process by asking, for top prospects, but the good ones go so far beyond that. They say, okay, once you have that list, let's start scheduling those strategy meetings or war room meetings. And then they attend those meetings. Maybe they can't attend every meeting for every opportunity all the way through, but they attend enough that they're involved. And they also offer to help in a substantive way. It's hard to get to a senior executive, really hard, especially if you are a new salesperson or even an experienced salesperson. But that leader is going to have a better chance of getting to that. It could be a C-suite executive or a senior executive. So they're going to offer to help, and they're going to, and in those kinds of ways. The other way they're going to help is they're going to help internally. They're going to make sure that opportunities that are really emerging as the big ones have internal company support. Because guess what? These opportunities don't always follow your fiscal year. So they can go over fiscal years, which means cost plans can change, territories can change. That senior leader is making sure that whatever exceptions are required, the team gets the support they need internally to go down this long path to win these big deals. So they are doing a lot. The good ones, the ones that have a track record of success, are doing a lot. This is not a passive activity.
Okay. So can you share, well, actually, before I ask you that question, let me ask you this question. What are the big, horrible mistakes that you see sales managers, sales leaders, sales teams? What are the big, horrible mistakes that they make when pursuing these 5X deals?
That is such an important question that actually, so I mentioned my latest book, The Top Sales Leader Playbook, and it's actually plays. There's 16 plays, and every play has yellow and red flags. And because exactly your point, things, when you say messy, these are complex, messy, long-term efforts, things don't always go right. So what are some of those yellow and red flags? Well, one of them is you don't have leadership in your company doing all the things that I just described. That's a red flag. The team will not have the stamina to stick it out. So if the leader says we want our big deals and then all they care about is a 30-day forecast, big deals aren't going to happen. So that's a red flag. Then you can have things at the account level. Let's say the leader of the team is a lone wolf. They don't know what it is to coordinate a team, to share information so the whole team can be more effective, to be a team player. And that is a red flag too, a showstopper. And so, part of what I describe in my book and how I work with my clients is understanding all these roadblocks and yellow flags and red flags and making sure that we do the things to work around or to eliminate them from happening. And because there's lots of them.
I bet. Big and messy, lots of challenges.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you share some success stories, some before and after?
Yeah. So I've got some on my website that people can download in PDFs, but, I'll share one. It was like a $40 million success story, which even by my, I know, even my, the under this is huge. $40 million is, now this company that I worked with, they sell a big ticket item. But still, this was big for them too. And so the reason why I love this success story is because when I was working with the client and we came across this big opportunity, they came across it, but I was working with them. So we started working it right from the beginning. And at that time, the prospect was qualified. So they met all the criteria and they were committed to buy whatever. They didn't like my client. They had some preconceived notions that were negative. Also, they were with a competitor and they were happy. So that status quo thing that we talked about, big. And in addition to that, there was some geographical challenges, some geography type challenges that made it more difficult. And what we did was we did exactly what I'm talking about. We pulled together the internal account team and we just kept working the strategy. We did competitive analysis to figure out where we could get an edge on the competitor. We had a whole education plan designed to move that prospect from having negative thoughts about their company to feeling really great about that company. Like we invited the prospect to have spend a couple days on site and meet with the executive team and get a tour of their operations. And, we did that multiple times with multiple people. So we did all of these things. We made some strategic alliances that closed that geography gap. So we identified all this stuff and we just kept, engaging and working. And in that case, there was an RFP, request for proposal. So we made sure that our win themes, which were the top priorities of this prospect and our top strengths, where those intersected. And so our proposal response really focused on those win themes, and as did the finalist presentation. Well, it all came together, and there were yellow, red flags and roadblocks, but it all came together, and they won, and it was a game changer for their year. $40 million game changer. It's really fun.
Go, Lisa.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I know you have a free gift for all of our listeners. So could you share that? Share that information? Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the keys to everything that I'm talking about is when you have that rubber meets the road prospect call, whether it's with your day-to-day contact or stakeholder or a decision maker or an executive, is you've got to meticulously prep for that call. And my free gift is a 2-page, so super condensed, I've been refining it for years, a pre-call prep guide that is a free download on my website. So if your listeners go to my website, and I know it'll be in the show notes, but www.toplinesales.com, and they will see the free pre-call prep guide. And just that makes a huge difference for all their sales calls. But if you're talking a big opportunity, that thought process, you can use my guide or just use the thought process, but that thought process is the key to having it all come together, all your strategy work come together in every conversation.
Well, I know as soon as we finish here today, I'm going to be going to your website and downloading the guide. But indeed, we will be putting the link in the show notes. So as soon as you finish listening to this podcast, go to the show notes, click on the link. Another question for you, Lisa. Your book. Where can we get your book? I have a copy of your book. Where can all of our listeners get a copy of your book?
So both my books are on Amazon, and they both are also on my website as a link to Amazon. So the website, toplinesales.com, is the best place to go. But my older book is called The Top Seller Advantage, Powerful Strategies to Build Long-Term Executive Relationships. And what's interesting? I just also published a LinkedIn learning course on the same topic, and already more than 5,000 learners have taken that course. So that topic is evergreen. It's always important. It's always a challenge. So whether it's the book, the LinkedIn learning course, there's a couple of resources. My newer book is called The Top Sales Leader Playbook, How to Win 5X Deals Repeatedly. And it's literally, as you know, you have a copy, it's 16 plays. So it's so easy to digest. You don't have to read the book. You can just go to the play. And the play includes what is the play, why it's important, shows you some examples, has those yellow or red flags, and then how do you mitigate those things. And then it has resources. And also every play has a subject matter expert. I searched the whole globe for who I thought was the best subject matter expert from that play. And they have a little excerpt at the end of the play. So the books are compatible but different, and they can see them on my website, click through to Amazon, for both of them.
Well,
Thank you for asking.
We will post those links in the show notes as well. So after you finish listening to this podcast and you go and you click on the link to Lisa's gift, the pre-call prep guide, then underneath that, you will see the links for both of her books, and you click on those links and get hold of her books. And one thing I have to say that I love about your new book is we were talking earlier about how you have to make it simple. You have to make it easy for the prospect. Well, you have made it easy for the reader. So that's really, really important. So
that was my intent. So thank you very much.
Yeah. And your website, toplinesales.com. And we're posting that link in the show notes too. So you don't have to go anywhere except to the show notes to find Lisa. We will direct you straight there. And so to finish off today, I want to thank everyone. I want to thank all of you for listening to the Salesology Conversations with Sales Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Wendy Weiss. My special guest today has been Lisa Magnuson. She is the founder and CEO of Top Line Sales. And if you found value in listening to today's podcast, think about one business owner or one sales manager, or one salesperson, one sales professional that you know that you think might also find value in this podcast, and share the link with them. Until we meet again, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, really large bills.
You've been listening to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. Be sure to follow so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in every week for more exciting insights and wisdom on transforming sales. And until next time, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, very large bills.